Hello and welcome back to Christie's Cozy Corner. So this video is going to be a little bit of a series update. Back in June earlier this year, I made two videos, one about all the series that I have completed and one about all the series that I am currently in the middle of. So I just wanted to do a little update since then of what series I have since completed, which ones I have started, and which ones I have made progress in. So we'll just get right into it, starting with the series that I have finished since then. The first one being Mistborn Era 2 by Brandon Sanderson. I actually started this series earlier this year and read all 4 books this year, and I am so happy to finally be able to say that I have finished this series, because with Mistborn being one of my favorite series of all time, it was not a good look to say that I still hadn't read this one yet. So I'm really happy about that, and I actually just finished The Lost Metal a couple of days ago, so more thoughts will be coming on that in my December wrap-up. I also started and finished the Monk and Robot duology by Becky Chambers. Now granted, this one is just 2 novellas, so they're very short and pretty quick reads, but regardless, it is still a series that I have finished, and I'm glad to be counting it. And yeah, that's pretty much it of the series that I have finished since June, which I know is not that much, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to do a video like this. One is to help me keep track of all the series that I'm currently reading and my progress in all of them, but also just to hold myself accountable and publicly call myself out, so it will motivate me even harder to actually finish the series that I start. But I will give myself a little bit of credit because I also reread some series as well. I reread the entirety of the Farseer trilogy and the Tawny Man trilogy in this second half of the year. Part of the wider Realm of the Elderlings series by Robin Hobb, which I'm still in the middle of. I've been meaning to give these series a reread for a really long time because I first read them many years ago, and I needed to continue on with the series because I stopped at the Rainwald Chronicles. But before I continued, I wanted to refresh my memory by rereading the past books that came before it. So I reread those 2 series, and they are not short, okay? So I will give myself that. I did skip the Live Ship Traders trilogy though, because I did not have time to read those, and those ones are incredibly long. Next, I want to talk about the series that I'm currently up to date in, because while I am currently in the middle of these series, I mean, it's not like I can finish them anyway because not all the books have even been released, so you know. And the first one of these is of course the Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson, which I am finally caught up in, and it feels so good. I read The Way of Kings and Words of Radiance earlier this year in the first half of the year, and in the second half I have read Oathbringer and Rhythm of War, as well as the little novellas in between. And with this, I think I'm pretty much all caught up in the cosmere, which is such a big accomplishment, and I am so happy about it. There are a few short stories I think that I still have to read, like the ones that appear in the Arcanum Unbound. I think that's the name of the bind up of all of the short stories. And I also haven't read White Sand, but you know, those are like whatever. Like, I read the main ones that count, okay? Like, just give this to me. Just give this to me. And I'm also caught up in Emily Wilde by Heather Fawcett. And by caught up, I mean I read the one single book of the series that's out so far. But the second book is coming out very soon in January, and I am so excited about it, and I definitely plan to pick it up right when it is released. The next series also follows a similar vein, and that is The Sorn Soldier by T. Kingfisher, and the first book of that is What Moves the Dead, and its sequel, What Feasts at Night, is coming out in the beginning of 2024 as well. So another one that I'm definitely going to be getting to right away, because this one is just a novella, so I should be able to pick that up and read it fairly quickly. And then the rest of the books on this list are the ones that are kind of just going to be perpetually on this list for the next foreseeable future, because while these series haven't concluded yet, there isn't really a release date for these books, so they're just going to be stuck here for a while. And that is of course Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson, Elantris by Brandon Sanderson, and Villains by V.E. Schwab. So recently Sanderson did post like his timeline of the next books that he's going to be releasing for like the next decade, and Elantris 2 and 3 are definitely on that list. So we will be getting them in the next few years. But we still don't have any news on Warbreaker 2 yet, which as of now, I think it's called Nightblood, which just makes me like so excited for it and makes me need it like 5 years ago. But for now, this one is still kind of up in the air on when it's going to come out. And then for Villains by V.E. Schwab. So this one is also a little bit tricky because I always thought that this was a duology, but there is a third book added to Goodreads, although I don't know how accurate that is because like pretty much anyone can add anything to Goodreads. But the second book did kind of end off on kind of like an open-ended kind of ending and left room for more to be in that story. So I actually don't know for sure whether there is going to be a third book in this series. For now, I'm going to keep it open and I'm going to leave it on this list until I hear otherwise. I also forgot to mention that there are some series that I have DNF'd as well. Most of these are books that I just read the first book in and I don't want to continue with the series, so I am dropping these. And the first one of these is Mickey 7 by Edward Ashton. And this book is one of those like popcorn sci-fis in the same vein as Andy Weir, or at least that's what this book seemed like it was trying to do. It was definitely an interesting concept and idea and had interesting themes, but the execution just left so much to be desired. Like the execution was so bad. So definitely not continuing in that one. And I'll talk about this book a little bit more in one of my upcoming videos for the end of the year. And another book that is going to be on that video is The Coven by Harper L. Woods, which I'm also DNFing that series called The Coven of Bones. And yeah, this one was just really not good. So yeah, definitely not going to subject myself to that story any longer. I also read the first book in the Marked Sun duology by Shelley Campbell, and this one is a self-published fantasy, and I read that first book, but I don't really feel a need to continue on with it. I didn't hate the book, but also didn't really love it, and I wasn't feeling that connected to it or the characters, so I just don't feel the need to continue and read that second book, even though it is a duology, but I just really don't care enough to want to find out the ending. And the last series on this list of DNFs is the Twisted series by Anna Huang, which is kind of like a dark contemporary romance. Now for romance books, usually I don't really think of them as part of a series because they're more like companion novels to each other. But for this one, I read the first 3 books and it's just the last one that I am not going to be reading, so I'm just going to count it as like a series DNF. These books were fun and entertaining when I read them, but even though each book follows a new couple and different characters, they all just read very samey to me because especially the male love interests, they all had such similar personalities, so it really felt like I was reading the same book over and over again. And when it comes to romance books, I just don't think Anna Huang is the right romance author for me. Okay, next we are going to go into the series that I am currently in the middle of and need to continue. I won't mention every series that I'm in the middle of because there are just way too many of those, and I recognize that that is a problem, and that is why I'm here trying to fix that. So since June, I have started a number of new series. I have started A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson, which is a YA mystery thriller series. And this series isn't necessarily a priority for me, but they're pretty short and entertaining and really quick reads, so I feel like I can just get through it pretty quickly and add it to my completed list already. And I also finally just started the Gentleman Bastard series with The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. And this one is definitely a high priority, but I have a feeling that once I'm caught up in this, it's going to be one of those books that are going to be stuck at perpetually up to date. But of course, hopefully not. And I also started the Books of Babel by Josiah Bancroft, the first book being Senlin Ascends. I enjoyed this first book when I read it, and I gave it a 3.5 stars, which It's not like the best thing ever, but I also didn't dislike it. I'm interested enough in the story that I want to find out how the story progresses and what will happen throughout the series. So I'm definitely still going to be continuing, but it's just not going to be necessarily a high priority. And I also started The Grace of Kings by Ken Liu, which I'm currently still in the middle of. I have not finished this first book yet, but I'm glad to say that I'm finally starting the Dandelion Dynasty. And then next are some series that I have made some progress in the second half of the year. And the first one is, of course, Red Rising by Pierce Brown. I read Dark Age in August, and I'm definitely planning to get to Lightbringer very soon in the beginning of 2024. And I also made some progress in the Locked Tomb series by Tamsin Muir with Harrow the Ninth, and the next book is Nona the Ninth, which I also want to pick up fairly soon before I start forgetting some of the details in the previous books. And for people who have read this series, you know that this is one that you really need to pay attention to and remember stuff. And finally, these next series are ones that I am currently in the middle of. Unfortunately, I have not made any progress in these in the second half of 2023, which is why they are on my top most highest priority TBR whatever for 2024, because these series are ones that I genuinely like, okay? I really enjoyed the books in them and I want to keep reading them, and I just need to get on with it. I don't know what is stopping me or holding me back from continuing on with these. I just need to get on with it. The first book on this list is Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. I am currently in the middle of Cytonic still. I started Cytonic earlier this year or last year, I don't remember when, and I put it down for whatever reason, I don't remember why, so I need to pick that back up and probably restart it from the beginning once I pick it back up because it's been so long since I put it down. And of course, Defiant just recently released, and that's the last book in this series, so I have absolutely no excuses now to not finish this already. So Skyward, definitely priority. And of course, I also need to finish up the Rook and Rose trilogy by M.A. Carrick, which I have been talking about wanting to finish for months and months and months now. And I'm sure everyone is sick of hearing me talk about how much I want to read that last book because I got an arc for it too. And I was so excited for it before it came out in August. But then August came and went, and did I read it? No. Same goes for the Founders trilogy by Robert Jackson Bennett. Both this series and the Rook and Rose trilogy, I need to reread the second book of these so I can go into the third book with all the details fresh in my head. And I think that is what is stopping me, because I have so many books that I haven't read yet that I want to read that I'm like, I don't want to reread so much, but that is my own fault for never remembering anything, and I have to reread these before I can get to that last book, which is one of those that I haven't read yet and I want to read. So like, come on, Christy, like, get it together. And another series that is in the exact same situation is the Drowning Empire series by Andrea Stewart. Again, another book where I was really anticipating that last book, but for some reason, I just haven't gotten to it yet. And again, this one is one I also want to reread from the beginning so I can remember everything once I get to that third book. Because funny story, actually, when I went to the bookstore when this book was released and I picked it up and started reading it, I read the prologue or chapter 1 or whatever, and I was like, who the heck are these people? Who are these characters? I don't remember any of them. So I'm like, okay, yeah, that's definitely a sure sign that I need to reread the series before I can finish it. Or else I feel like I'm just not giving the conclusion a fair chance, you know? If I don't remember like where I am or what's happening and I go into it super confused because I just don't remember anything, like of course I'm not going to have as good of a time, you know? Another high priority series to finish is the Daevabad trilogy by S.A. Chakraborty. Again, this is another one where I just have that last book left, The Empire of Gold. And for this one, I did just read the previous book very recently, so I should be able to get to that last book with no excuses. I also want to keep going and finish the Shadow Campaigns by Django Wexler, which has been on my ongoing series list for so many years. Like, it's probably one of the oldest ones on my list. So far, I've read the first 2 books in this series, and there are 5 in total. It's a completed series, and I own all of them. So again, there's really just no excuses left. And the last one that I want to mention on this list of high priority series TBR is The First Law by Joe Abercrombie. For this one, I've only read the first initial trilogy, so next is going to be going into the standalones, so then I can go into the subsequent trilogy. Now, for 2024 series plans. Should I even plan to start any new series when I'm already in the middle of so many? Probably not, but will I? I think we all know the answer to that question. So I just want to mention really quickly some of the series that I want to start in 2024. Not finish, just start. And the highest priority on this list is the Rainwild Chronicles by Robin Hobb, and then also the Fitz and Fool trilogy by Robin Hobb, so I can finally finish The Realm of the Elderlings, because similar to what I said about Mistborn, this is my favorite series of all time. So the fact that I haven't finished it yet is just not a good look, okay? Like, it's just embarrassing. I also want to start the Winnowing Flame trilogy by Jen Williams. I've just heard so many amazing things about this series, and I think it's one that I'm really going to love, so I'm really excited about this one. Same goes for the Empire of the Wolf series by Richard Swan, the first book being The Justice of Kings. Everything I've heard about this one just sounds like it's going to be so good for me, and it's right up my alley. I also want to finally start the Rhaeria Revelations by Michael J. Sullivan, and just Michael J. Sullivan's books in general. Same goes for anything by John Gwynne, specifically The Faithful and the Fallen. And these are all series that I have already mentioned in my other video that I did in June about my ongoing series and ones that are on my high priority series TBR. And here we are again. This has not changed. Same goes for A Chorus of Dragons by Jen Lyons and the Long Price Quartet by Daniel Abraham. I'm saying it now that I want to start these series in 2024. One final one on this list is one that I have been meaning to read for a really long time, and it's one of those books that are on like my forever TBR. It's like I want to get to it eventually. I'm going to get to it eventually, but this year I promised Jade from Bedtime Bookworm that I am finally going to start it, and that is The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan. I know it is a huge commitment, but like I said, I just want to start it, okay? This is not by any means a commitment to finish all of these series, but I just want to at least start the first book so I can at least like gauge whether or not I want to keep these books on my TBR, or find out that these series are actually not for me and I can finally once and for all remove them. So there we have it. That was my series update for the end of the year 2023. Hopefully I will make a lot more progress in 2024, especially now I have these videos and my channel to hold me accountable for the things that I say I'm going to read. Let me know in the comments some of the series that you are currently in the middle of or have finished recently and what you thought of them. And thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you again in my next one. Bye!